All right, so this is game turn number 2. Just finished up a complete game turn. One of the nice things about the new edition is you have an expanded sequence of play that is on a player aid card, double-sided. I don't remember the original editions having something like this, but this is very handy. It is, it's an involved sequence of play, but it's nowhere near as complex as, say, the Next War series from GMT. There's a lot more going on in that particular sequence of play. What we have here is there's going to be an initial segment that isn't really going to apply in Battle for Germany because diplomacy phase is only really in the Persian Gulf or in the combined game. And I kind of wish they would have put a notation to that effect on there. That would help new players out. Neutral activation can bring a country like Austria or Yugoslavia into play. We're not going to do that right now. There's an aircraft maintenance phase, and that is where we're at right now, where we receive new aircraft units. NATO gets a whole bunch of new aircraft toys to play with, and that's going to help them out a lot because they did take some serious losses in turn 1. So they're going to get a bunch of new aircraft. Those are going to go into their available stock. And then for everybody else, we're going to do maintenance. You're going to roll for maintenance, and what you do is you take everybody in the flown box. See the number on the left? That number in the middle left is its maintenance number, and you have to roll that number or less on a 6-sided die in order to refresh that unit and have them fly for another turn. Now, I've already done that for all the NATO units, so what you're seeing here is the result of rolling 6s, because the NATO units, except for the F-111s, will refresh on a die roll of 5 or less. Warsaw Pact units mostly refresh on a die roll of 4 or less, but you can see we rolled a lot of 5s. So most of the Su-25s, several SU or MiG-27s did not refresh, and unfortunately for the Warsaw Pact is they didn't get all their MiG-29s back. So that is the status there. The next thing we're going to do, we look at our sequence of play. So we're going to destroy ground and air ground. We're going to destroy and ground air units due to craters, grounding, etc. So how this works is we're going to look at our air theater tracks, and there's a cratering level of 3. This is kind of like how strikes work in the GMT Next War series, if you're familiar with that. What we're going to do is we're going to take all of these guys, throw them into a random cup, like a coffee mug or something. I use these little Tupperware bowls. And we're going to mix them all up, and we're going to take 3 of them out randomly, and they're going to go into the destroyed box. So that's how we're going to allocate destruction. And then we're going to take 7 out of that cup, and we're going to ground them. They're going to go into the grounded box. So that's how you're going to take care of cratering and destruction. So NATO's going to take some losses. It looks like they got a lot of units now, but that's going to change in just a moment. And you don't know which ones are going to come out. If they lose their F-15s, that could be really harsh. Losing their A-10s is another one. You really like these guys for your ground support. So it's all randomized how that's going to work out. Same thing with Warsaw Pact. They're going to have 1 unit from this whole mess. They're going to get 1 unit destroyed, and 2 units are going to end up in the grounded box due to cratering. And then I'd have to double check the rules, but if memory serves, I think you get half of your cratering back. So that track is going to move. I don't think they reset to 0. I think you get half of it rounded up or something like that. Double check the rules. I'm sure that people watching this will send me the corrections. They correct all my errors, and I really do appreciate the error correction support. You guys are like my autocorrect for board games. So the same thing's going to happen down here. We pretty much got all of the Southern Front units back in play. By the way, the ranges on these units, small range, short range, medium range. These medium range guys can also fly in this particular theater, so they may have to draw some support from here to here. And that would be a useful thing because clearly the Warsaw Pact is not attacked on the Southwestern Front. Up here, the Warsaw Pact did lose an Su-24, and we have not rolled for the MiGs down here. I haven't done that yet. So why don't we go ahead and do that now. Let's take my little handy-dandy dice tower and my Warsaw Pact dice. And we'll roll for the MiG-23 here first, and he rolls a 1, so he's going to refresh. The MiG-21 from Hungary rolls a 2 and refreshes, and the MiG-27 rolls a 1. So all 3 of these guys do refresh back to ordinary state. Now, again, look at the ranges here. MiG-23 could help out in the Western Theater, but the other 2 boys can't. But they can fly cratering missions and impact the track here on the southwestern front. Once you've taken care of all of those things, repair the craters, consolidate losses. This is another cool mechanic. I like this. You take all of the units that are in the destroyed box, shot down box, we should really call it, shot down. Take all these units from the shot down box, and you're going to draw half of them out, and they're going to become available again. So half of those guys are going to be able to fly again. The other half are going to remain, are going to be permanently destroyed. They're gone from the game permanently. You don't get them back. If you have an odd number, the odd number stays in that box. So right now there's 5 units. 2 are going to come out and be able to fly again. 2 are permanently gone, and 1 will stay behind. Now, see, there's an Alpha Jet in there, which is a pretty cheap little airplane. Sometimes it's worth flying and getting maybe some of your MiG-21 shot down or your Alpha Jet shot down, because out of that box, maybe we'll draw the F-15 and get the F-15 back, or the Tornadoes back. And, you know, my preference would be that this guy and this guy not come back, and these 2 do come back, and this guy can stay in the box for another turn. But the cup does not always work out that way. And again, you see the same thing here. We got 3 MiG-29s, an Su-27. That's 4, 5, 6. So really like to get those backfire bombers back. I don't really care so much about the MiG-23, but I'd love to get the Su-27 and the Blackfires for sure, and maybe another MiG-29 back. But having no cheap aircraft in here, we know we're going to lose some MiG-29s permanently. And that's how that whole mechanic works. So just a little bit of insight into the air game early on before we do air superiority. We'll do the weather determination next. There's a weather chart that we're going to roll on for each theater to determine whether or not they're cloudy, clear skies. That can impact sorties and aircraft capability. We're not using the nuclear rules, so we'll skip that. And then the next thing is we'll do the air superiority phase. And I'll do a whole video just on the air superiority stuff, because it really is kind of fun to work through that. All right, so we're going to go ahead and take care of the destroyed aircraft on runway and the cratering for the Nato, we call this the Western Europe Theater. So we're going to go ahead and do that. I went ahead and put all my units in here. We're going to draw them out randomly. I will clarify, I double-checked the rules because all of a sudden I couldn't remember for sure how the cratering is reduced. You roll a die, and according to your die roll, that's how much of the cratering is reduced at the end of this entire step. So we're going to take 3 units out. So I'll mix this thing up pretty good. I'm going to pull 3 guys out. We pull out an A-10. That's not exactly what we like to see. Pull out a Tornado. We can live with that. And we'll pull out a Belgian F-16. Now that, don't like to lose the Belgian units, because they are susceptible to becoming shaken, demoralized, and surrender. So we want to try to keep their losses down. But there we go. These guys are going to go into the shot down box. So we're going to add that to the pool here. And then the grounded units, go ahead and reset that. The grounded units, we're going to pull 7 of them out. Grounded units don't have to roll for maintenance. They're going to come back automatically. So I thought I should clarify that. So we got 1, Mirage F1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, 6, and 1 more, 7. Well, it's a pretty mixed bag. A couple F-16s, Danish F-16, a U.S. F-16, looks like a Harrier. That's a bummer. They're kind of on the same caliber as the A-10 in terms of ground support capability. It's got a ground support rating of 3 instead of 4. Those are column shifts, by the way. Those are pretty powerful. And a Jaguar. So those are the guys, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yep. We're going to pull these guys out, and we're going to put them into the grounded box. So I do apologize. There's not a lot of, I need to get a tripod is what I really need. It's just too hard to do this with my left hand. Okay, and then everybody else is good to go. I'll straighten that up a little bit later. We're going to do the same thing for the southwestern front. So we'll take everybody here to the, basically no one's going to be available because of all the cratering and everything else. 2 guys are going to be destroyed. We're going to lose, F-104, that's a good pick for that. And, you know, F-104 is like one of my favorite aircraft, but I don't really, I don't know. It's not really a capable aircraft. It's not that great of an aircraft, but it's kind of a cool aircraft. Let's put it that way. So those 2 guys are going to be shot down, and then the rest are going to be grounded. So basically the NATO bases just got hammered in Italy. So the new Spanish units did get affected. Spanish F-18, Mirage F-1. Those guys are out of the action. And we're going to reset that. No destruction down here, purely defensive on Southwestern Front on the NATO side, so we don't have to do anything there. We're not going to, this guy's just going to stay in there because until you have at least, 2 units, you can't really resolve that. So since there's only 1, he's just going to stay in there. One of these 2, either the F-104 is a permanent loss or the F-18s from Spain got hit by those runway cratering missions. And then these 2 guys, they'll come back for service on the next round. However, these guys got a clean shot at maybe some aircraft runway cratering missions again on this coming turn. So now we got to do the Warsaw Pact. There's going to be 1 unit that is destroyed, and then there's going to be 2 units that get grounded for the turn. Well, after everything's said and done, this is what NATO has to fight with on the next turn. 2 F-15s, 2 Mirage 2000s, and then a couple multi-role aircraft that have a good aerial combat rating of 3, although not all-weather. And then we have the multi-role fighter. These guys can fly fighter, air superiority. They can do strikes. They can do ground support. Put them down there. And this guy, the F-117, is a new piece that was not included in the original because we didn't know about it back in the 1980s. But it is included as an optional in lieu of the fictional F-19. And it's only really good as a striker. But it is stealth, so there's a 50-50 chance they don't detect it. And then we have 1 A-10 for ground support. So NATO, those strikes on those NATO bases, you don't feel it right away, but now you start to see the impact of those strikes. So I didn't use any I didn't do any strikes on specific NATO ground units. I sent everything that I could after those bases in order to produce these kinds of results. And they rolled pretty well. And ground support or ground fire didn't do a whole lot of damage to the strikers. Now we're ready to find out how many of these guys on the Warsaw Pact are destroyed on the runway. And the one that is destroyed is a Czech Su-17. I can live with that for sure. Throw him in there. And then we have 2 units that are grounded. And one of them is a MiG-21. Definitely live with that. And the other one is, Polish Su-17. So unfortunate that the NATO strikes did not hit bases that had the right kind of aircraft to influence the air battle. So that is all we need to do there, and we'll go ahead and clean up that mess. All right, next we're going to consolidate losses for NATO. And clarification, half the units come out and they go into the flown box. Half of them are gone from the game permanently. I mistakenly said that half go into this box. So what we have in these boxes is pretty much what's going to fly. 2 F-15s, 2 Mirage 2000s. You saw what I had shown in the earlier segment. What's going to be opposing them? It's going to be a close fight in the air superiority battle. We have 5 5-strength Su-27, a 4-strength MiG-29, 2 3-strength MiG-23s, and 1 2-strength MiG-21. So the MiG-23 from Southwestern Front, being medium range, should be able to fly in addition in the Western Europe front, so that they can add their weight to the combat. All you need is an aerial combat air superiority rating of at least 1 in order to fly an air superiority mission. But bear in mind, the number of units that you put in that box, basically, you throw somebody in that box, they're not running another mission. And so you do take away from your ground support and your strike ability. But everything in that box can run intercepts, escorts, and top cover missions. But let's go ahead and take care of our consolidation. There's 8 units in the cup. I've randomized it, and the first one out is going to, well, let's declare. We're going to go to the flown box first and then destruction. We'll do it in that order. All right, so we're going to get an Alpha Jet, dang it. It's not really what we want to see. And what's gone permanent is 1A10, ouch. Boy, I'd really like to have that the other way around. What are we keeping? Belgian F-16, that's good, that's a good pick. What are we losing? We're losing a Dutch F-16. And those are those F-16As that don't have quite as good capability in terms of avionics, I think. All right, what are we keeping? Well, Mirage 5, not too bad. It could be worse. And what are we losing? Losing a Tornado. All right, we got one more. Mixing them up. What are we keeping? A Tornado. What are we losing? What we really didn't want to lose, an F-15. Well, on the balance, it's not, it's not terrible, but these two guys, I would have really preferred that these are gone from the game permanent and kept either the F-15 or the A-10. I would have liked those 2 units. So these guys are gone permanently, and the Dutch unit is going to impact losses here. So let's look at the Netherlands. We're going to go ahead and put one. You basically use one of your dead units as a marker on that track. Once they've taken 3 losses, which are their step points, or stacking points rather, or air units, then they will be shaken. 6 of them will demoralize them. And so that's a little unfortunate that took place, but it is what it is. There we go. We're going to do the same thing here for now the Soviets. They're going to put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So mix up all 7 units. We're going to pull 3 out and 3 out, and 1 will go back into the shot down box. So what are we keeping? MiG-29. That's a good keeper. What are we losing? We're losing an Su-17. Well, if you're rooting for the Warsaw Pact, that was a good trade. What are we keeping? No! Oh, Su-27. What are we losing? We are losing a East German MiG-23. All right. What are we keeping? Well, if I had 3 units I would have picked to keep for the Warsaw Pact, it would have been those 3 units. What are we losing? Well, they do lose 1 MiG-29, which we kind of thought was going to happen. 1 unit's going to stay in there. 1 MiG-29 is going to stay in there. These are permanent losses. So we'll go ahead and pull them out. And East German losses really don't matter on here. They're not easily shaken, but Czechoslovakia will go up by 1 for losing that air unit there. So there you go. That is the end of aircraft consolidation. Loss consolidation, I should say. So on our sequence of play, we're all ready to do air superiority missions. And as I already said, I'd like to do those as a separate video so you can kind of see how that works. And so look for that video next on my channel. And appreciate all of the subscribers and supporters. If you see me do any rules mistakes, don't hesitate to let me know, because I got a lot of games and sometimes you get what's called rules creep, and you take a rule from next war and start using it in this system and vice versa. It's a it's a malady I think a lot of us do suffer. But pretty cool game system. I love how the air unit, the air system works in this. I think it's a really good balance between detail and playability. It doesn't take a long time to work through. It happens pretty quick. Other theaters will happen even quicker because there's fewer air units to deal with. So that gives you good perspective now on this kind of interesting subsystem of the Third World War system, Battle for Germany. Coming up next will be the air superiority fight.